Alrighty. All right. We are live. It is, what is the date? It is July 1st. We are done with June, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Joe, aka the Stoic Viking, and today marks the 1-year anniversary of the creation of this YouTube channel and essentially the branding of the Stoic Viking. So we're going to couple a number of different things here today. And some of the things we're going to cover are everything we've accomplished, everything, the lessons learned, the community that we've built, the way forward, and things that we're looking forward to doing in the next year, and the sort of, as you would say, hey, what's up? Hey, can everybody hear me? Because honestly, I didn't test the mic. I just realized that. You guys hear me? All right, yeah. It looks like you guys can, the mic looks good. All right, let me remove that. All right, sweet. So, man, I got to figure out these banners. I'm trying to get these things through, like I can move it up, but for some reason I'm having technical difficulties. Granted, I don't get on here that much, but at this point you think I would be better at this, but apparently not. So 1 year ago, I had this concept. All right, I wanted to create a channel. Obviously, I had not retired yet, but I was in the last 6 months. So I wanted to do something which I've honestly always wanted to do for at least 5 years. I think when I first experienced an event within my former unit in the intelligence support activity, I had a run-in with a very, very toxic squadron command sergeant major. And he still to this day, I think, is the greatest example of toxic leadership I think I've ever seen in my entire career. And what I saw him do was probably my first really thought about eventually creating a channel specifically just about toxic leadership. And that's what I really wanted to cover. And because I felt like it was such an issue within the military, like if it's at the tier 1 level, then it's rampant throughout the rest of the military. So I knew that like I wanted to find a way to help fight this. And this is before I went to flight school. So then I go to flight school, and then I hit rock bottom. And then I, go through the darkest moments of my life and end up almost committing suicide. And from there, as I crawled my way out of the hole that I dug for myself, I now sort of added another thing that I wanted to do when I eventually wanted to start this channel. So fast forward a couple years later, I even bought some equipment. I bought a camera. Actually, I don't know if you see this camera behind me. Bought that camera and was like, oh, I'm going to make YouTube videos one day. And two years goes by. And I'm going to be honest, I made excuses almost the entire time. Like I wanted to build a studio, all these different things, coming up with all these different reasons why I wasn't going to create this channel. Like I just kept giving excuses along the way. And then finally at like 6 months, I was like, you know what? Screw it. I was like, I'm gonna create a channel. And then I was like, okay, do I create it in my name or do I create some sort of a brand? And then that's when I came up with the Stoic Viking, because obviously I'm a big fan of ancient philosophy, Stoicism in particular, but also other ones like Buddhism. There's so many great philosophies kind of to learn from. It isn't just one, right? Stoicism is great, but there's so many to learn from. And then obviously the warrior methodologies, whether it's Spartan, samurai, so many of these societies that there's so many great lessons to choose from them as well. But obviously having a little bit of Norwegian in myself. And also I really like the concept of something the Vikings were always known for was essentially sailing out into the unknown, which I felt like was a good moniker for what I was trying to do with my life. So we created that. We created our TikTok, which was the first one to create, and then an Instagram. And I made my first video on camera and put it on the internet. It was on TikTok. And then I had a video that go viral. And then I created the YouTube channel shortly after. And then here we are 1 year later. So, and honestly, it has went way better than I thought it would. And I'm glad that I finally did it. And, and I honestly said, screw it. Like, all I had was a cell phone and a selfie stick. And I just started recording videos. And honestly, my first videos, especially on TikTok, where I was recording myself, it was extremely cringe. I mean, so cringe, and I still cannot stand the sound of my own voice. And until recently, because I did all the editing myself, not only did I have to go through the cringe part of recording the videos, having to edit for hours listening to my own voice was also added to a level of the cringe. So, what's up, everybody? I appreciate you, Jean Pierre, Jade ATL, Rack Shadow, Young and Oob, and A702. I appreciate everybody. So, we're going to get into a couple things. So, I wanted to cover, getting into like the channel, why, and a lot of the lessons learned. So, some of the things that we have definitely learned along the process. One, I'm just really glad, and I think which is the number one lesson about all this, is you just have to get started, right? I, for years, made excuses. I knew this is what I wanted to do, but I made excuses. Like every excuse that you can think of. And then when I finally pulled the trigger, every excuse I'd been giving myself and been telling myself, I just threw those out the window, took a cell phone, selfie stick, and we went to town. And finally, we have a new camera, which I thought I was going to have time to set up today. And we actually have new professional lighting. But between working out, polo, and preparing for this live, I didn't exactly was not in a reliable place that everything was going to be set up in time. So I figured we'd do this. And then as soon as I'm done with this, we're going to set everything up. So we're going to have the start of a new studio. Hopefully it will be a lot better, and the lighting will be a lot better. I'm going to move the studio in some other place within the apartment because I actually cannot control the lighting. I don't know if anybody can tell, but this is a farmhouse, and there's a skylight above me, and I actually cannot reach the skylight. So I can't even block that light. And there's another window above the stairs, which I can't block that light either. So farm life problems, if you will. So the first videos, right? So first biggest ones was just how awkward were they? So many audio mistakes. The editing was, I can't begin to tell you. Learning how to edit, which I'm really glad that I did, that was definitely a painful process, right? You have to learn, you try all these different programs, see which ones work, you create long form videos. How do you add graphics? Do you add pictures, or do you, learning all these different programs, Opus Clips, OBS software, everything, like learned it on the fly. And I'm really glad because now that I've hired a media company, through the 9 months to 10 months that I was just me editing, I was able to kind of start to develop my own style. And also having an awareness of how long it takes to edit also helps you when you are trying to help direct the media company that you would then hire, who then edits your video. So that is also very helpful. But the public speaking was the hardest part because I have been struggling with speech problems ever since my car accident, which is now we're going on 21 years. And for the longest time, especially talking to the camera, I was rushing my words. I was using filler words. I wasn't able to look at the camera. I would constantly dart back and forth because that's like the only way that I could do continuous thought to voice projection, if you will. But that's what it comes down to, is I would do a video. I would record it, and then I would edit it, and then I would be very hypercritical of what I was doing wrong, and then I try to fix it. And I do this for every podcast that I was on. What was I doing differently, right? So I felt like I'd done enough by the time that I got to Mike Ritland that I felt very composed, and a lot of the lessons and how I appeared on Mike Ritland was trial and error through all the different podcasts I had done prior to this. So, but the biggest part is it's just repetition. You have to do it, right? You have to get used to this. You have to get over the cringeness of recording a video. Like me talking to you guys through this camera is weird. I'm going to be honest. It's weird. Like I obviously don't see you guys. I see a camera right in front of me and I'm just talking to it, right? Obviously, you guys honestly make this so much better, especially in these lives, because I can actually have a conversation with you guys and you guys respond. And that's I can't begin to tell you how much that reinforces what I'm trying to do in this process, because it is something that is cringe, right? But what is something that I always say, right? Embarrassment is an underexplored emotion. So get out there and make a fool of yourself. So here we are, making a fool of ourselves, and we're going to continue to do it because honestly, I just don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't give a fuck factor in life is just like I zeroed out just completely. So what surprised me in this whole process, things I didn't expect. So people from dozens of countries started watching. Like I get all the time, like people from Venezuela. I get people from Germany all the time, and the Netherlands, so many different, like Canada. It just blew my mind that it wasn't just the United States. And obviously we're doing a lot of it can be military content, but obviously we're trying to do the physical health, we're trying to do the mental health. But the amount of people that around the world has just blown me away, right? And then the messages that I've been getting throughout this entire time is veterans just be like, hey man, I really like what you're doing, keep it up. And some of the best messages is like, hey, I was actually thinking about taking my own life, but you gave me pause. That is the greatest compliment I will ever get. And those are the messages that remind me every single day to keep going. Even when I put out videos that don't do anything for views, right? But that's not the metric of success. Did I help somebody in the process? Does me sharing the shit and the mistakes that I have made helping somebody else, right? Because it's easy, like especially with some of the videos that have blown up, then I'm like, okay, cool. You see the views are like, we're getting big. And then I'll put out another video and it doesn't do as well, right? Especially these niche subjects about mental health. And that's why I always have to go back to remember, what is our purpose? Our purpose is to make a difference in people's life. No, we don't give a shit about views, all right? If we get a number of views, cool. That's just a metric to look at, but is not the main metric, right? Did someone message me? Did someone come in the comments said, thank you for this? That's it. That's all we care about. You have to get some professional lighting equipment, like some soft boxes and reflections. Well, as a matter of fact, that's exactly what we did. We did get some professional lighting. And as you can see, I've not opened it up yet, but we're going to. That is all happening today. We are going to we're going to move the studio into a much darker room. And we are ordering signs. We are going to have some stuff in the background. Things will start to look better resolution. And this space that I sort of created is sort of an ad hoc way to record videos. It's a little constrictive. I'm not going to lie. And I am a very expressive person. So I know that when I start to I can do a setup and I can have more of a movement, because if I move around too much, I hit this mic, right? So all these things are intended, like every single day, we're trying to do something a little bit better. What is the lessons we have learned, right? Obviously the lighting, I've got too much lighting in this room. I've got a couple soft lights that are helping me. I've got a white light here and a yellow light here that are helping, but I need to control more lighting. So lighting is also very important. But if you do not have lighting, screw it. Just make the content and we'll figure it out later. If you don't really know how to edit, screw it. We'll make the content. We'll figure out how to edit later. And so that has been sort of my concept throughout this way, because I should have made this channel 4 years ago. I'm going to be completely honest, but I didn't, because I made excuses the entire way. So thank you, brother. I appreciate you telling me I did well on the Mike Ritland podcast. Well, I can tell you that is trial and error through all the different podcasts, and then analyzing how we did, and then trying to fix things. Like, I have a tendency to touch my face, and it's something I have to work on. So if you guys notice, when I sit in the Mike Ritland podcast, I interlock my hands and I sit like this the entire time, because for some reason, when I touch my face, I interrupt my thought process, even though I do it as some sort of like weird comfort thing, but then it screws up my thought process. And so that was trial and error, and through Brent Tucker, Ethan Nagel, and the fuck, what's the name of his podcast? I fucking forget. But anyways, the ones that you actually have in person, because it's one thing to do podcast through videos, but it's a completely different thing to do it in person, right? Because the best thing about in person is it feels like more of an organic conversation. Like, I'm not looking at the camera. I'm actually looking at Mike. I'm talking to Mike, and I forget about the camera, and I can actually think about the questions that he's asking. Especially when he asks me about stuff about my story that nobody else has asked me before. So that's also important. Well, I appreciate everybody. Thank you, Sean Murphy. Aiden Harris, what's your plan for the next year? So the plan for the next year is to improve the actual setup here, right? But we also want to improve. So now that I have hired a media company, we're going to do more lives, right? We're going to be set on a schedule, and we're going to be doing videos that make a difference, right? I've been recently doing a lot of history stuff. I just did a history on ISA, and a lot of people asked for me to do a tier list on special operations. So that video is actually coming out this week, but I want to get back to a lot of the subjects about mental health. So I want to talk about moral injury, and I want to get into that stuff. And I know these are not the sexiest of subjects, but I feel like that's the subjects that I need to cover, or the subjects that nobody really wants to talk about, and nobody has really a great way of explaining it. At least I feel like I explain things to retard level, because I am slightly retarded. And in those videos, usually the comments I get are people like, hey, I really like how you explain this thing. So I feel like I should continue doing that. Those are the things that I want to cover. Obviously, I love history. And just trying to improve the content, not just me becoming comfortable. Like, I'm obviously more comfortable recording, talking to the camera than I was a year ago. And this has been a process, but I still, when I watch my videos that, even the last couple of weeks that have come out, yeah, they're getting better, but like, is my personality coming out? Am I talking, organically? Am I just kind of like, I know what I want to say, especially with this history stuff. I do kind of follow a stricter script, because I don't want to accidentally say something I shouldn't say. So for the history of ISA, I'll be honest, I usually, for most videos, I follow a bit of an outline. That one I actually followed a script, because I wanted to stay on target with just publicly available information. I know which of the publicly available information is crap, and I was able to siphon that out. But I want to be able to create more videos like that, but also keeping my personality within that video and getting better at that. So that's kind of like my goals, is have better content for videos that people really want to listen to, and also just be more engaging, right? I feel like I'm more engaging in these lives, but I want that to translate to these videos, if that makes sense. And obviously become better spoken. Some of the words that I cling to, like for example, I'm very well known for saying, instead of especially, I say especially. I've been working on that. I've been working on a lot of other things that I just randomly, there's a words, I don't know why I say like that, but I've been shamed enough to realize that I need to fix that. And so I listen. You guys say stuff, you guys make fun of me. Cool. I listen. Leads to the stuff that's productive. Other than that, I really don't give a shit. So I say espresso. So I started listening at the beginning, as I've never heard anybody from the Army of Northern Virginia guys speak before, but I stayed for the realistic and positive vibe. See, that is a comment. I appreciate you guys. Let me throw that up. Let me throw that in front of my face, right? Because these are the type of things that that I really appreciate, because these, not only do they sort of like reaffirm like what I'm trying to do, I feel like there's a lot of people out there and content creators who are just kind of fake, or not necessarily fake, that just really don't have much going on, especially in the vet bro community, more than just their experiences. Like, how do they actually take what they learned in the military or their experiences and their missions and stuff? How does that help the rest of us, right? Are you just here for the war stories, bro? No, like that's why you're never really ever going to hear me talk about war stories, because what's the point? It's a unique situation and it's not going to help anybody. But what are the lessons that I learned that can help, the people, our generation, and even the people in the generations younger than us? And I think that's the biggest part, is being of the service, being a person of service, being somebody who makes content in order to help other people and to do it for free, right? And that's the whole point. Like, nobody has to pay for my YouTube. Nobody has to pay for my Instagram. So I think that's one of the most important parts. So going back to actually, just keep this up. I don't know. You guys like this banner? I don't know. We'll just leave it like that. So the biggest lessons, right? First of all, lesson one is consistency beats talent, right? Because you may not have the talent to begin, but the repetitions and consistency is what actually helps you to build that talent. And, honestly, probably the first lesson actually shouldn't be the consistency beats talent. It should be just go, just do it. Just get out there and try. Doesn't matter if you have the setup. I'm serious. Like, I literally had a cell phone and a selfie stick, and I just started, and it was cringe as fuck, but we went at it, right? But then it's consistency every single day. Set a schedule, but like, hey, I'm going to just record one 60-second video every single day, and then do it, and then post it, right? But do it in a way that it's value added. It's just not me like, this is my daily routine, this is me in the gym. Like, how does that help anybody, right? Give a lesson, tell a story that you think can help somebody else, of something that you helped, a mistake that you made, right? Be humble, right? These people who try to pretend that they're these perfect people, who, first of all, doesn't exist, right? And then two, like, everybody, I mean, even the most impressive people in the world, Michael Jordan, Michael Phelps, all the Michaels, right? They've all fucking made mistakes. And so let's be real about that, right? I've made mistakes. I've failed at things. So how do we deal with that, right? Because that's the thing. Everybody's great when everything's going great, but who are you when shit goes bad? And that's the important part, right? And so the second lesson is that confidence comes from repetition, right? So the more you do it, like when you start making these videos or any other tasks that you do, you're going to suck at it. And you just need to do it over and over again, because you have to fail forward, right? Nobody's going to be perfect, right? Even like you think, like, take singers, right? Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran has a video of him when he was 10 years old, because everybody's like, oh, you're such an amazing singer. He's like, no, I wasn't. And he shows a video of him singing when he was 10 years old. It was like fucking strangling a cat. Like, he was horrible. So, this is just another example of like you just repetition. I mean, like that's where that confidence comes from, right? Because confidence is not you shouting fucking affirmations in the fucking mirror. I love this quote. That's why I always keep saying it. So confidence comes from you, doesn't come from you shouting affirmations in the mirror. It's from you having an undeniable stack of proof that you are who you say you are. And how do you do that? By fucking repetition, by doing the practice, doing the work every single day, day in and day out, and being okay with sucking at shit. Fail forward. Like whether it's sports, making videos, getting ready for selection, going to the gym, right? Like there's so many different examples of this. And that is the pathway to success. You have to fucking do it. Like you have to fucking go through it. It sucks, right? But what's on the other fucking side of that, right? And look, you can make a decision. You can there's two types of pains. There's a pain of regret, or there's the pain of fucking hard work, basically. I'm sure there's like better actually word to use that in that fucking quote, but it is what it is. So lesson 3 that I learned throughout this process is service creates purpose, right? So when you're making videos, right? And obviously everybody needs to find their purpose, right? But I think that specifically when it comes to like making videos, what is the point of me making a video if it doesn't serve anybody, if it doesn't help anybody? What is the fucking point? What is the fucking point with any of these content creators? Like, are you just trying to be famous? Are you trying to help people, right? And that is where I feel like I differ. And there's other people like me, obviously, but that's the one thing I use as a lesson when I see some of these other content creators. Not going to go into names or anything like that, but just be of service, help people, and that be your purpose. And that is so reaffirming, especially with everybody's comments that keep coming back, that, the messages I get, the comments in the videos I get, it's awesome. It really is. It just, because some of these days they're hard work and I can just look at the comment and just be like, it helps one person. Just pick your head up, keep going. It doesn't matter, right? So lesson 4, right? And I already talked about this kind of like the beginning, because I really think this should be lesson like 1. I wrote this down, but now that I'm kind of changing it, which is you don't have to be perfect start. Just fucking start, right? You'll figure it out as you go. And I think that almost anybody who's ever built some brand new business will tell you the exact same thing, or had some new venture, or started a new skill. Just get started. Figure it out as you go. You're going to suck. It's okay, right? And when you do this day in and day out, discipline compounds over and over again. Like there's a point, and I forget, like you can talk about, there's the neuroscientist, I think it's Matthew Huber something, right? Every time that you do something that you don't really want to do, like something that usually is like that you need to do that kind of really corresponds with discipline, there's a part in your brain that enlarges. So there's a reason why the first time that you go to the gym is really hard. But then when you go to the gym over and over again, it starts to get easier, because that part of your brain actually starts enlarging. And this is the section of your brain that deals with you having to make decisions that are better for you, but that are hard to do, that you don't want to do. So there's even medical sort of corroborating evidence that supports why discipline compounds and why it gets easier over time. And also mainly because you become the person that you become, exercising discipline day in and day out. That's the real goal, is improving who you are as a person. And that is your character. When people think of you, are you the person that when they're like, this guy says he's going to do something, I already know he's going to do it? That is always who I've always wanted to be. I never want to be the person they're like, yeah, you talk a big game, but you never follow through. Fucking shoot me now if that's ever. And I guarantee you there was probably a time when, I had friends or maybe even members of my own family who thought that about me. But luckily, in the last couple of years, I'm not that person, right? I've had my ups and my downs, but even in my downs, fuck it. Discipline is everything. Fuck motivation, man. I'm telling you, that shit don't do anything for you. It doesn't do anything for you. And when I finally realized that, and I really just made it like a part of one of my like core tenets in my life, everything got better in my life. And to be honest, probably, and I've been a very disciplined person most of my life, but I think a year and a half ago is when I was just like, fuck it, we're going full discipline. If we make a schedule and it's on the schedule, we're doing it regardless of what happens. Yes, Andrew Huberman. That's it. Not Matthew Huberman. I think I was probably think of like the combination of Matthew Hussey. But Anosh Anis Schrammer, you got to tell me how I'm supposed to say it. You said it to me last time. I think it was Anus SR Hammer. I think it was that. So exactly, train wreck that shit. I'm telling you, just fucking get started, train wreck it. You're gonna be fucking golden, brother. But but in it, like what he just said, right? We obviously need to create a system and make it simple. Because when you first start out and you start making like, what your schedule is, everything like that, you need to start out with something like going to the gym, make a plan that you can actually do. Because if you're not going to be able to do it, right? And then, build upon that. Like, don't throw some crazy shit at the beginning. Like, start small, step by step, build a plan that you can do, and then build upon it. And then it will exponentially get bigger and you will get more disciplined. You're going to build those wins, those W's, those successes. And it just snowballs. It fucking snowballs and everything just gets fucking better. And SR Hammer, it's a joke, bro. I know. I just was trying to remember. You told me last time of how to say it, and I wanted to say it properly. So I appreciate that. Oh shit, Jean-Pierre, my favorite Frenchman, up in his house. How do you reconcile failing fours when organizations like your old unit take to no fail missions or cooperate ones that exist for profits? That's a very good question. So, yes, there are no fail missions, right? But do people make failures? Have we failed in no fail missions, right? What was Operation Eagle Claw? Was Operation Eagle Claw a no fail mission? Absolutely. It was a no fail mission. Did we fail? Yes, we did. What did we learn from this? We learned quite a lot. And what did we all learn? Everything that probably one of the single event that changed the United States military forever was that failure. So you obviously want to do everything and never fail, but that's unrealistic. We're going to fail at things. Missions are going to fail. And when we do, the question is, do we learn from it? The reason why we can look back at Operation Eagle Claw is because we took that huge ass failure and we turned it into creating the greatest special operation organization on the planet, between SEAL Team 6, ISA, SOCOM, JSOC, the 160th, and all these other subordinate organizations that we created over time, the 24th STS, MARSOC, all these different things all spawned from this gigantic failure, which was a no-fail mission. So yes, you are on no-fail missions, but that's not, and you want to be as perfect as possible. You want to be as the margin of error and your chances of failure to be next to zero, but it will never be zero. But when you do fail, right, and mistakes are made, hopefully the whole mission doesn't fail because of it. But if it does, or any aspect of it does, there is mistakes made, learn from it, right? Don't live in regret. Take your part in it. What were the lessons learned? Forgive yourself, and then move the fuck on. I hope that answers everybody's question. So, and of all the videos that I've done, and honestly, I want you guys to give me your honest opinions about this. Of all the videos that I have done, right, And you can either name a specific video or a video that, or a type of video, right? Or where we're doing the Understanding Iran, the Understanding Somalia series, the ISA history video, the mental health videos, the physical health videos. We're talking about TRT, talk about fitness, talk about supplementation, talk about nutrition. What are the type of videos that you guys have liked that I've done so far? And also, what are the type of videos that you guys would like me to do in the future, right? Either specific or even another genre of videos, right? Or should I get on live and start playing fucking video games? Because I'm not gonna lie, that's a dream of mine, to play video games on stream. I think that, but there were lots of failures and hiccups from Eagle Claw today. Exactly. It's like with anything, right? This was probably one of the biggest failures in the history of the United States. But we, instead of like sitting there crying about it, and the US government could have been like, all right, Delta Force, you're done, right? Because this is one of their big operations to validate their existence. Instead of basically, hey, you failed, you suck, you're going to disband you. We saw the problem, and instead of wallowing in self-pity, the military is like, you know what? We got holes. Let's fill them. Let's fix this shit. What lessons did we learn? And one of the reasons why we're still the greatest military on the face of the planet and have the greatest special operations to this day, the special operations organization, is because we decided to learn from those failures and not be a little bitch about it and cry and be like, woe is me, we failed, right? Fucking get back on the fucking horse, move the fuck on, and fucking get better. So I think that's a great example. Your point of view about global affairs are the ones I like. Also do a video on recovery would be great. Oh, yeah. I think like that's definitely I think I talk about a little bit about recovery, but I definitely think that we could do a full video on recovery, because I think it's a great subject, because recovery is definitely something I feel like is the least of the fitness industry. I feel like recovery is the least subject that people talk about. I really like the more sciencey ones, such as the TRT video. I also really enjoy watching the videos about different countries and why they're in conflict. So I actually really like this, because one of the cool things is, so when I first got approached by Human Performance TRT, who does TRT and the peptides, since the company I became affiliate with, I don't just rep companies I don't know. So I've known about TRT, right? So because they approached me, I wanted to do research about this subject. So I went delve into it. I mean, I actually really enjoy doing research, and I went into the weeds about this. And as I started learning, because as quickly you can learn what you need to learn about TRT, but the peptide stuff, because one, it's new, it's out there, it's this new science. There's a lot of awesome potential, right? But you really, with anything that's new, it's kind of like the wild, wild west out there. Where are the pitfalls? Because anybody knows anytime that new that comes out, and I've tried everything new that's come out. I'm going to be honest. Whether it's fitness, nutrition, all stuff, I've tried it all. One of the coolest parts was like me getting into this. I learned so much about it. And then when I learned so much about it, about the peptides, then I got to make a video about it. And so this whole process is not only am I sharing knowledge with you that I already had, I'm learning new stuff in the process, and I'm able to get to a certain point. And this has always been my belief, is that to truly master a subject is when you can teach it, right? You can learn a subject, but when you demonstrate mastery of it is when you can teach it. So these are always different things where I'm like, hey, I'm learning this on the go. And once I've gotten a certain point, can I teach it? Right. And so that's one of the things I really liked about the TRT video, was because I got to teach this new thing that I just delved into, got as smart as I could about it. And, obviously there's there's things to go into about it, which I covered in the video. But and then also these different countries about why they're in conflict, right? The Iran, Somalia, right? Not everything, nothing is black and white. Everything is nuanced. So how do you explain this without with cutting out the political bullshit, right? Why does Somalian culture so invested in scamming and fraud, right? There's actually a historic reason to why their culture is like that nowadays, right? Why is Iran like the way it is today? There's usually a historic reason for it, right? And obviously there's a lot of propaganda out there and political posturing that says otherwise and wants to paint a certain picture, but you have to see through that bullshit. So that's one of the reasons I like to do that. JNATL. I particularly enjoy the Iranian perspective. You explore the complexities well, and I learned a lot and had no clue about it. And that's the thing is, like, a lot of these countries, nobody has really know about it, right? So I did work in Somalia. Majority of my professional career was about Iran. It was about Iran and their proxies, and I did many, many things against them, right? So, and then also me being a Farsi speaker from the beginning, and then also that being a subject matter expert in that particular part of the world, and then also being well connected into the DC community of Persians, and then also going to Iraq and Afghanistan, you quickly see that there is a difference. There's nuances in every culture, Iraq and Afghanistan, but of those three countries, there's way more nuance in Iran. There's way more nuance among Iranians, the Iranian diaspora, the ones who got out of the country during the Islamic Revolution in 1979 and 1980 and the following years, and the persecution of the Shah loyalists and everything like that, like, to really understand what has happened in that country and what has transpired over the last 47 years. How is the general overall opinion within the population that lives there still, how has their opinion changed over time? So, like, I just felt like a lot of the news that comes out is so black and white, and it's usually to perpetuate a particular political stance, or like basically propaganda to push one side's narrative or the other. And honestly, we have to cut through that bullshit. And that's the other thing that I definitely enjoy. And when I was thinking about making this channel, that's not something I thought I was going to do. I never thought I was going to do anything like cover current events. But when I was like, hey, I can cover current events from an apolitical point of view, and it just try to concentrate on the history and the analysis apolitically, I was like, okay, I'll do that. And I actually really enjoyed doing it, to be honest. I actually don't know if I know who is Scammer Payback. I feel like now we gotta do something. Now we gotta pull up Scammer Payback, because you guys are. Oh wait. All right. Scammer. Who is this person? Scammer Payback. Almost 10 million subscribers. He reverse scams Indians. I feel like I want to watch one of these videos. How about instead of me picking a video, Mr. Anal Hammer, why don't you, if you can, find a good one for us to watch, and then put it in the chat. Throw the link in the chat. So Aiden Harris, have you thought about doing videos about teaching Stoicism or do a series about the fundamentals of Stoicism and teaching what is and what isn't? Actually, yes, I have thought about this. So there's a couple people who already do talk about Stoicism and everything like that. Like Ryan Holiday obviously does a fucking phenomenal job about talking about Stoicism. But I'll be honest with you guys, the two philosophies that I probably have helped shape who I am today is not just Stoicism, it's actually also Buddhism. But I take a little bit of everything, right? I find like you kind of have to look at so many different perspectives, looking at nihilism and other sort of darker, almost, I really like looking at some of the more darker philosophies. And I definitely want to do a series where we talk about not just getting into like Stoicism, but like the Stoic teachings, but how does it relate to modern times, right? Because remember, like a lot of the Stoic, obviously there are sort of translations, but I feel like it should be sort of translated in our own way to how you can affect it in an everyday life and give examples of that. So that's definitely something I would like to do, and not just do that for Stoicism. I'd also like to do it for Buddhism. I actually like Taoism is also really interesting, and all these different things. And eventually, I'm not gonna lie, I eventually do want to get to the point. I have a whole series of books that I would like to do, kind of along this subject, where we not only we talk about history, but we talk about a lot of these philosophies and combined with these warrior societies. And I want to combine them just how I've combined the Stoic Viking. Like we can do like the Buddhist Spartan and other things like that, or the Taoist Knight. And those would be essentially the topics of covering the different philosophies in the warrior societies somehow within a book. These are all things that I'm sort of working on right now. I'm not going to do a book about my military career. I'm going to be honest. I it's not really what I want to do. But I want to do more about the lessons learned in a way. If I was ever going to do something that had anything to do with my life, I would do it probably in the format that Pete Blaber did with The Mission, the Enemy, where each chapter is a lesson learned, right? And then it may have something to do with something in my career, but it may have to do with my personal life, how I dealt with my car accident in college, how I dealt with other things, getting into, whatever. So, yeah. I think my favorite video of yours is about your career, but I've always enjoyed a good history video. Yes, I really enjoy history, and I want to do more history videos. So I just did obviously, was it 2 weeks ago? I did the history of the ISA, and I would like to do more videos like that. I am actually going to do one this week. I'm recording tonight. I'm doing the history. It has two parts to it. It's about Marsoc. It's about history, and it's also, so the video that I believe is either going to come out today, the draft is supposed to be done today, is I did a really long video about my tier rankings of special operations. It's not just American special operations, but British, Australian, German, French, and Israeli. And I will tell you that Marsoc was the lowest rated American special operations on my tier ranking. But I in the video, I talk about it very briefly, that there's a reason why that is, but there's also a reason why they're not going to stay there, right? And so I wanted to do a follow-on video of why Marsoc, how it got created, because you need to know the history to why it had so many issues when it first got created, why Marsoc kind of got seen as like the redheaded stepchild who just kept fucking up, and why now they're in a good position to become one of the best special operations in all of SOCOM. So it's one part history, but also helping to explain what has happened and where they're headed. So that's something I'm recording later tonight. Hammer anus. So, all right. I feel like I want to watch one of these videos. Was there a short one of these videos? Yeah, let's find some shorts. All right.
How scammers react to being hacked.
Such a foolish you are. My goodness.
The scammer's name is Avi. We hacked into his system and downloaded all of his personal files, including his photos and his actual government ID. When Avi realized that we hacked him, he was being a little too cocky.
Gosh, you thought you deleted everything from my computer.
No, I didn't delete everything.
God.
I downloaded everything first, so I have your ID card.
What ID card do you have?
I have your
ID card. I have your Adhar card.
What ID card?
But it didn't take him long to figure out that we knew way more than he thought we did.
Listen, you motherfucker.
Hey, Beta.
What ID card do you have?
So
Can you please tell me
you're in Hawara?
No?
And that was the longest pause I've ever heard.
All right. So, all right, we're going to come back to this a little bit. All right, I definitely like the other scammer ones that I've seen. I didn't see this video, but I feel the Marsoc just didn't have a clear vision of being, but I've heard that's changing. Yes. So that video is not out yet. It's apparently, so usually most of my videos come out Saturday, but this video, because I covered 17 units, I think 17 units was like 16 or 17 units. The video was so long that the media company that edits my videos now, could not finish it by Saturday. It's so long that the first draft is coming out Wednesday. So this video is taking an additional 4 days, might possibly 5 days. So it's either going to be out later this evening or it's going to be out tomorrow. Let me check if the draft is up yet. It is not. That's not up yet. So it should be up soon. But when you see it, and then I explain, it's not that Marsoc didn't necessarily have a clear vision. There was a bit of a clear vision, but there was a lot of characteristics to this situation that just set them up for failure, right? At the beginning. But because they kind of pushed through it, and then over time, we're able to overcome a lot of those issues. Marsoc is definitely on its way to becoming one of the better special operation units within SOCOM. So that's awesome. But yeah, so that will come out. So I'm going to record that. So luckily the tier rating video should be out, I guess probably at this point, if the draft is up, not up yet, probably be out tomorrow. And then I'm going to record this tonight, and then hopefully that will be out Saturday. So after some people are going to be butthurt that I shit on Marsoc, but I talked to a bunch of Marsoc guys about essentially my take on this situation, and almost everybody agreed. So the people who don't know about Marsoc, who have not been the inside, who weren't around her at this time, may disagree with me, but luckily all the Marsoc guys who were in at this time, they agreed with me about this take, because this was also a bit of our view from the tier 1 level of what we saw, what was going on with Marsoc at the time. So that should be interesting. Yes. So I think that most of the videos should have chapters. If you guys ever come across a video and it doesn't have chapters, please comment on the video, chapters, ? Or need chapters. And that way I can just send a message to them, because there's definitely been some videos that they've released where there wasn't a chapter. 1 second. Oh, apparently I forgot to plug my phone in. In a moment. All right, there we go. So, all right. Yes, Timex. Okay, yeah. If you guys see a video, please. I need to go back and forth and double check, because I know that there was a video or two that they put out where I was like, "Hey, can we put the chapters in?" Because someone asked. So if you guys ever come across a video and there isn't chapters, please just say, and I will send them a message, and they usually respond pretty quickly. So it's a relationship we're still building. Yeah, and yeah, so it was really interesting because actually one of the first phone calls I had, I connected with a Marine who is one of the first people to help stand up what would become MARSOC, and he was actually on why am I drawing a blank on what Ethan Nagel's podcast is? Into the Breach, the Into the Breach podcast. And I was able to get ahead of, I think his name is Josh Shores, and through him, and a couple, and also I know some other Marines who were at MARSOC, and they were well, one, I want to be like, hey, just so you know, was my take on it. This was our view, and you can tell me if you saw anything differently. And I was really surprised that everybody's like, yeah, that's exactly how we saw it. So yeah. So, but I explain what happened, right? And I feel like there was a lot of things going on there that created a lot of issues. And we'll be covering that in the video that will come out later this week. Joe, there are no chapters on this video. Well, I appreciate you, but that being alive, it's a kind of a moot point. But I appreciate you, brother. You know, already crushing it, already is getting there. All right, so let's real quick. I want to get in this because I don't want to stay too long because the World Cup is coming up. And granted, I don't really care who wins against Belgium, but it is what it is. All right, so I did want to talk real quick about the community. All right. That's not what I was looking for. All right. All right, let's go with this. All right. So just, once again, I want to talk about like people who have helped me so much in this process and reaffirmed what I'm doing because of the people sending messages, whether it's helping to improve their lives, people losing weight. I've gotten a lot of coaching clients, these consultations I started doing. I really enjoy them because I feel like for 30 minutes, for each personal person, I can help use some of the life lessons that I've learned and automatically inject it into somebody's life and exactly in their own personal situation and help them through that situation. And one of the best comments and messages I've ever gotten was somebody reached out to me and said, hey, I was thinking about taking my own life, and if it wasn't, you gave me pause and I'm still here because of it. That made it worth it. The whole fucking channel, even if the channel doesn't go everywhere, that one message made the whole fucking thing worth it. And I will be forever grateful. And I think about that message every single day that I do this. So, and just the community, just talking about joining the military, getting selected, getting through depression, getting motivated, saying something like, when I started this channel, I hope maybe one person would get something from it. And right. And that was the goal. And honestly, we've built an incredible community. I really enjoy the people that come in here and comment, right? Because, like, for example, I'm going to give you an example of a community. So when I did the Brent Tucker podcast, there was a lot of really cool, like, he's built a good community at the Tier 1 podcast. But then I went to Mike Ritland, right? Obviously, it's a much bigger show. He's got almost 500,000 subscribers. When I did Brent Tucker, I would say 80% of all the comments of my podcast episode were positive. You go on Mike Ritland, 90% of the comments are negative. And granted, majority of the comments were either one, that I am apparently revealing OPSEC and I need to go to jail, which is hilarious, or two, that I'm gay. So that obviously speaks more about the individual person claiming that I'm gay. Whether they're their own laden, whatever, sexual confusion, or they just need to insult me in order to make them feel better about themselves. It is what it is, right? But the community that we have built so far here, I love it. Like, you guys come in here, there isn't this crazy, just random, just dudes coming in saying crazy shit. It's awesome. I really appreciate everybody that we've done. I feel like the people that come into this channel generally want to have a legitimate discussion about shit and isn't just here to push a narrative or a political stance or propaganda and bullshit. So what is coming for year 2? So one, I want to do more interviews. I actually want to start doing interviews. I do eventually want to have somebody on the show and actually have a conversation. But I want to have the people. I don't want to just have people on to have people on, right? I want people who I actually legitimately want to talk to, all right? I want to do history videos. I actually want to do almost like documentary style videos. Obviously, I'll be covering more special operations history. I'm going to be covering MARSOC this week, getting into more of the fitness stuff. Obviously, we talked about doing recovery. I'll definitely add that to the list. Doing more deep dives into different types of philosophies and how do we relate them to today, like Stoicism, Buddhism, Taoism, nihilism. And one of the biggest issues is talk about leadership, right? Because most people don't even know what good leadership looks like. I've only had examples of bad leadership. And granted, you will learn more from bad leadership than you will from good leadership, but you still need to have a foundation of good leadership. And I feel like very few people. So when I made that video about the investigation where my former unit weaponized the Army Criminal Investigation Division to come after me for making a YouTube channel, that was an example of bad leadership. And the whole final third of that video, I gave examples of what good leadership looks like, right? Because what's the point of the video if I'm not going to teach something, right? Instead of just bitching the entire fucking time about, woe is me. Oh, the unit came after me. Oh, they investigated me. Fuck off. So, mental health. It's the whole fucking point, right? People like myself who have ever thought about committing suicide have almost done it, or even the people who have done it, right? We have a fucking problem and we need to fix it. And the first way that we fix it is admitting there's a fucking problem, and we have to be able to fucking talk about it. And I know a lot of people will come on and, so the algorithm doesn't hurt you. And I know the algorithm has hurt me because I say the word suicide. I don't say unalive. Right? I probably have once or twice, but maybe in the short videos, but I'm not afraid to say it. And if I get less views because of it, fuck it. And the very different aspects of it, not just suicide, but other things that lead to it, like what leads to depression, what leads to failures into making mistakes by tying your identity to your profession, having moral injury through the things that you have done, dealing with PTSD. Let's talk about it. Let's get into it. What are the successes? There have been techniques that help people to get through that, right? And we're not alone. You're not fucking alone. And I think that's the most important part. Everybody goes through this shit. And just literally just give it one more day. If you're ever teaching, just give it one more day. Reach out to somebody. Fucking talk to somebody, right? I almost did it. And I can tell you that my life is now better than I ever could have imagined. And none of that would have happened if I fucking went through with it, right? All because of what? Because I was upset. That shit's fucking temporary, brother. It will get better. I fucking promise. Life gets better. Life is not meant to just internal happiness. That's what people think. Life is beautiful because of the ups and the downs, right? You can't appreciate the ups if you don't have fucking downs, right? that bad shit makes, when you do have your fucking ups and the fucking victories in your life, it makes it that much fucking sweeter. You wouldn't nearly have the level, of appreciation for the good shit in your life if you don't go through the fucking bad shit. Yeah. Let's see. Let's do this. Oh, I like this one. Would you do one with John Kirikow feel like you two have in common? I find John Kirikow one of the most entertaining people on YouTube and social media. I would love to have a fucking conversation with him. Obviously, he did that for like 30 years. My stint was a lot smaller, but I would love to have a conversation with him. If I can ever get on his radar and ever have a conversation with him, I would fucking absolutely love that shit. Charles Finney, I'm like that guy after Ukraine. I felt broken, but this channel gives me hope to return to America. Well, we appreciate you, brother. I'll be honest. At first, I was a little miffed that you were talking about ISA because I think SEALs have turned into glory hounds, and I love that DF and Delta Force and ISA didn't seem to want that. And absolutely, and there's a reason why I only talk about publicly available information, right? And I do research before I talk about any sort of subject. And I actually, after the criminal investigation division, I actually have a lawyer who specializes in this particular topic. And anytime I do a podcast, he actually goes through the podcast before it's released because we will always receive a draft. And he actually makes sure that we don't overstep the bounds, right? Because like, I don't know if you guys who've seen my podcast with Mike Ritlin on the Mike Drop podcast, he definitely asked me some questions where he wanted more information on a specific topic. And he was like, I was getting close, but I kept stepping back and he was like, well, can you tell me about an operation? Which I've always sworn that I'm never going to tell a real operation. But I was like, hey, but I'm not going to tell you about a real one. But if we were to do one, here is a hypothetical one, right? And so that's kind of how I try to deal with that stuff. Because one, I don't want that. That's what this channel's about, right? It's not about what I did in ISA, right? But what are the lessons that I learned, and how can I communicate that without violating any OPSEC, classified information, sensitive TTPs, and sensitive whatever, right? But going back to our boy, I appreciate you being able to look at what we're trying to do here in the channel, because that's honestly what I say to people who come into my comments and are like super negative, like, oh, look at this OPSEC. I'm like, dude, look at my content, actually listen to it, and actually go and find something that's not publicly available information. I am not the first person to talk about ISA. All right. Joe Kent on the Shawn Ryan show. What are we up to? Like 6 books about ISA. Trust me, I might be the first content creator from the unit. But does anybody even heard me talk about a specific operation of what I did in the unit? No, and I never will. So it is what it is. Absolutely. If you guys have not checked out the Tier 1 podcast with Brent, you definitely will. It's awesome. See, that I appreciate. So, Yaga nub. But I've changed my mind, and I think I'd rather have someone like you telling the story than someone has only done the research, not the actual job. And I have, honestly, some of my favorite comments are comments like this, right? Because not only does it speak to you, my brother, about someone who's open-minded, because that's the thing. We're never going to get everything right? And Everybody has first impressions. Everybody jumps to conclusions. I fucking do it. I try not to, but I still fucking do it to this day. That anybody who can admit, hey, you've changed my mind. Dude, you're already fucking winning in life. I'm telling you. In so many ways. Like, this says so much about you. And it also makes me feel better because I'm like, hey, I'm glad that I was able to put out the information and they're able to keep you engaged to actually see what we're trying to do with the bigger picture is here. So this is funny. So funny, Taylor Kavanaugh, TCAB TV had this happen when he was in the French Foreign Legion. They said take his YouTube shit down. This actually doesn't surprise me because so during my investigation that happened, and granted, luckily I was retiring in a few months anyways, so it didn't matter much anyways. But because when you're in the military, they can actually give you an order not to post. And technically they could have given me an order to take my stuff down, but they didn't. They never told me to take down. They just told me not to post for 2 months. And then I was vindicated. And then I retired literally a month later. But funny thing about Taylor Kavanaugh is Taylor Kavanaugh actually personally reached out to me and told me he was actually a big fan of what I was doing. So if you've not watched Taylor Kavanaugh, I think he's got a really good message. I feel like similar to what I'm trying to push out, because if there's a dude, because what is the greatest dudes, right? The dudes who have fucked up their life. And Taylor Kavanaugh definitely has fucked up his life. He went to prison at one point, and who's fucking, just fucking crushing it now. He's a great fucking example of that. So if you guys have not checked out the fucking former SEAL, former French Foreign Legion, former prisoner, fucking Taylor Kavanaugh, dude, fucking check his shit out, dude. He's got a good fucking message. Absolutely. Yeah. When you look at him, but dude, the conversation that I've had with him, dude, he's actually extremely intelligent. He's been through it, right? He's made the fucking mistakes. He's failed at shit, right? And he's learned from it. And he is trying to be in the service of others. He is trying to help people learn from his mistakes. And I think he's doing a fucking great job doing it. So Frank says he went back with his lawyers to resolve properly. He's not deserted. Okay. It's interesting. Self-authority writing based on Dr. Penbaker helped me a lot to see the light and focusing on the next immediate step instead of spiraling into darkness. That's the only way that if you ever get into the place, because I was spiraling into darkness, like when I hit rock bottom, and the only thing that got me out of it was just thinking about one thing. I would just every single day I would concentrate on one thing that would make my life better. And usually it was like making a phone call. Making a phone call to someone or something that involved me getting my life back to order. And that's all it is. Just take one step at a time. And that I cannot begin to tell you how important that is. Joseph Little, 191. You previously said CAG intel squadrons do a better job than ISA in many cases. Does the existence of tier 1 units own intel squadrons makes ICE obsolete, or do they carry on their own ops? So, yes. So there are certain cases where the intel squadrons of CAG and SEAL Team 6 do certain aspects better, right? But I will be honest with you, they do not make ISA obsolete, because ISA does stuff on the strategic level and they do their own operations. And DEVGRU and CAG's intel squadrons will never be able to replicate what ISA does as an organization for intelligence operations throughout the world. With supporting its own individual operations, it does a very good job, and we're not necessarily needed to help them anymore. but they can't do the level of intel and preparation of the battlefield like what ISA does and the CIA does. And that's one thing that they will never make ISA obsolete. So because those intel squadrons are focused on doing intel, supporting their own units operations, not really anything outside of it. Joe is a no upset co. That's funny. I'll take it. Adam Gall, have you had an opportunity to read his book, The Unit? I'm going to be honest, I actually have not read his book yet, but I actually knew of the person that is the pseudonym to Adam Gamal. And as a matter of fact, all right. If you guys can still hear me, I apparently did not plug my phone in. So give me a second. We are going to reconnect this. All right. As a matter of fact, so I think this is actually a good place to end the live because apparently when I thought I plugged my phone in, it did not actually plug in. So I appreciate you guys. I done fucked up. Yeah. So I appreciate everybody. Thank you. And I will do better apparently about just plugging my own phone in because I had apparently the connector in it, but didn't actually plug in. So instead of waiting for it to reconnect, yeah, I'm not going to wait for that bullshit. So I appreciate you guys. I'm going to start making the studio and I will talk to you all later. And hopefully you guys will see the video about my tier ranking the special operations unit, and then my follow-on video, the MARSOC history and the shit that happened. Right? So, all right, everybody, you guys have a good night, and I will talk to you all later. Peace.